Hi everyone, number one Marmaduke fan here. I'm doing taxes. Someone asked me, "You haven't done those yet?" And I said, "Hey, if there's going to be a global pandemic that gives me a chance to go all the way to tax day and say, bleep you, IRS, I'm not paying my taxes today. How can I miss that kind of opportunity?" So now I'm doing my taxes, cleaning my room, finding all the receipts, and of course, when you're cleaning your room, you find all the comic books you've got to read. That's one of the reasons why I like digital comics. I'd advocate that people do digital comics because I like having the option to buy that and give you more money. But the thing that physical comics have that digital comics don't have is if I trip over it in my room, I kind of gotta get to it. So I got three here. What I think I'm gonna start doing is maybe transitioning. I've got a really great idea for a like highly edited series with like slideshow presentations and everything, but I really like the phone videos. So what I think I might do is make the phone videos a little bit more perfunctory, like thumbs up, thumbs down, like and then have some fun. And then the professional video essays will be a little bit more technical, like, oh, check out this panel and how it interacts with it, this kind of stuff. So let's just flip through some of this and I'll give you my brief thoughts. So this is Sonic the Hedgehog Infection. Boy, this is very topical. Even Sonic can't outrun a virus for too long. So I'm really loving the IDW Sonic series. It's everything a good Sonic comic should be. They clearly love the history of this franchise. It would help to kind of have played some of Sonic's games and understand some of the past events they're referencing, but they do a pretty good job of getting you caught up if there's something you're missing. Be quiet, Cuddles. First off, typo shade, because I can't help it. He sent search parties of badniks. That's a finite number of sensors over a limited range, all of which takes times. Hire me as an editor, internet. Okay, so I like Dr. Starling. Dr. Starling, I hate his stupid hair, but what I like about him is he is a competent underling for Robotnik. Oh, there goes the microphone. That's going to be nice and loud. And he is subservient to Robotnik. So what keeps him from not feeling like a cool and amazing DeviantArt self-insert OC is that there's a clear hierarchy with Robotnik at the top and Starling at the bottom. And maybe he has his own motivations. He has this real hunger to prove himself to Robotnik. So I like the dynamic shift of Robotnik having a competent assistant. I even like how Robotnik's a little bit more of a fly by the seat of his pants genius, and Starling is a little bit more of a cross your T's and dot your I's scientist. He cares about like testing and getting results, and Robotnik just wants to make sure his evil plan works and then go blow up Sonic. They're also doing something really interesting with Robotnik's character, and I guess what that would come down to is Robotnik a clown or is Robotnik Saruman? Dun da da! Cool idea, plot twist. All right, so in the Saturday morning cartoon from the 90s, Robotnik is just a genuinely evil villain, and he's very threatening. Or in the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog Goofy cartoon, he's just a great clown. And my take on the character from the video games is he's kind of comedic. Like, he could blow up the planet, but he's a little bit too incompetent to actually manage blowing up the planet. It's not that he's a good guy, it's just he's too incompetent to ever kill anybody. And what they're doing in the comic series is they're kind of gradually pushing him from a comedic villain towards being a more genuinely threatening villain. And it works really, really well. So I guess in sort of Saturday morning cartoon logic, you could have clownish villains, you could have very serious straight villains, and villains who have a combination of the two. Like the Joker is this too, where you can have a comedic aspect and a serious aspect. But the more you push them towards evil, the less and less you get to do like fun little silly cartoon like if Robotnik kills some people, then you can't go back to him doing like Bugs Bunny antics after that. And I really respect it because they're not doing it just by making him dark and edgy. They're doing it by making Robotnik behave in a genuinely evil fashion in a way that wouldn't traumatize a kid. Like you see him being very giddy as he performs these experiments on these animals who are clearly sentient. And just by focusing on the animals and like how distressed they are during the whole experiment, it really brings home just what an evil person he is. But there's no like, blood and guts flying at you. I just like stories that kind of tell children evil is evil and there's no sugarcoating it. Now, the gags come from the fact that he has so much fun being evil. And even a kid can kind of put two and two together and realize, wow, he's so evil. And yet that's his idea of having a good time. That's upside down, right? So that it's sort of like an anti-joke because he is doing bad things. In fact, he's having fun doing bad things. Kind of like it creates a contrast that naturally creates laughs. So he's still funny, but they're almost trying to develop him into the direction of being more like the genuinely evil Robotnik in the old 90s cartoon. There's been like no news about this yet, but some of the people at IDW have said they'd be interested in bringing in those old characters. I'd love to see their take on them if that can happen. I'm sure there are all sorts of rights issues that would have to be resolved, but if some of them are, you can tell that they're interested in the old Saturday morning characters and the cast of freedom fighters, because they're actually developing some themes in the IDW book that parallel the themes of like loss and hopelessness and of just the terror of evil. Like there's a sadistic element to evil, and I just love that direction they're taking the character. Jumping ahead, what do we got? Okay, this gets quoted a lot. Like, I just love what they're doing with Robotnik in this series in general. This went around viral on the internet because it's just kind of like an interesting little character moment. So Starling seemingly successfully kills Sonic, and Robotnik says, "How dare you?" But he's gone now. He can't get in the way of your plans. "The Hedgehog is mine to destroy. It's not the job of some upstart like you. I could carpet bomb him any day. That's not enough. It's not the point. I have to beat him. I have to prove I'm superior. There's a right way and a wrong way to vanquish your lifelong nemesis, and you did it very, very wrong." "I'm sorry, sir." "You should be. Don't let it happen again." I can't. All right, so this is great because this is now floating the idea that Robotnik, this is unusual for Robotnik. He could kill Sonic any time he wants to, but he has to prove he's right, which is fun because now basically his own hubris is what's creating his problem. He can't just do a practical solution. He has to one-up or humiliate Sonic. And it's a dark twist on the character. Like the idea of Robotnik carpet bombing people with like drone strikes, that's different from the old cartoony idea of the character, but it fits with this new more genuine threat villain direction they're taking him. Just from a writing perspective, I love how they did it. It was gradual. It was within the characters' dialogue and the back and forth between them. And like they didn't just have like Robotnik murder tales and go like 100% cartoony to 100% evil. They're doing it gradually. Jumping ahead, they imply, I love this gag. His login is Eggman and hate that hedgehog. That's great. There do seem to be people who have died in the war against Robotnik. It's just sort of like alluded to subtly, but anyway, yeah. So it's a great series. Kind of want to comment on this. So one of the ways they're kind of transitioning it is old Robotnik would put an animal inside a robot, right? And then Sonic jumps on the animal and it pops out, poof, right? And now he's created a virus that's like a techno-organic virus that gradually turns you into a robotic slave. It robs you of all free will. That's kind of like how roboticization was done in the Saturday morning cartoon, where it just felt really... One of the things I love about the Saturday morning cartoon specifically is it's cartoony little animal characters, but they definitely gave them very genuine human emotions like grief. Like characters in that show realized their friends were gone, their family was gone. They'd have to cope with the loss of their family. They have hope that they can save their family who are prisoners of Robotnik. But throughout the entire series, there's just this really palpable sense that Robotnik is evil and he wants to get rid of all of them. And they're just barely holding on by flying by the seat of their pants. So really interested to see what direction this is going. Why did I mark this? I must have marked this for some reason. I guess I marked this because there's this really great back and forth between Starling and Robotnik about do you be evil just by going for it, or do you be evil by emphasizing kind of like your planning and the process part of it. So fantastic series. Let's keep going. So, Beatdown Girl #1 by Jake. He's now going by Jake CB for his pen name. The cover art is by Peterson, Oliveria, Oliveri. Oliveira. Dang it. I haven't heard of this guy, but I know that he works for the Kubert School. So that means he's kind of like had a long history in the industry. I'll be checking out more of his work. Jake did the sort of regular cover. This is going to be kind of like a good, old, honest, tough love, pros and cons review. So I had Jake on to discuss Beatdown Girl as he was developing it. He talked about his process and what he was learning as a student, and I really admired that. Like I like what he thinks about character design and the character having like a distinct silhouette. So I like how her robot arms, you can tell they're robot arms just by her silhouette. It's sort of like how Mega Man characters always have that very distinctive, arm cannon and cartoony, limb design to them to help code them as robots. So I like that. I like things like, she has the two ponytails, so that's a clear silhouette. Even things like, I think Jake mentioned how he gave her the boot gauntlets just to add a little extra something to her legs. So I think she's a well-designed character. And I like the contrast between kind of the hard-boiled narration and the fun, evil robots. So you read the first page and it's talking about like AIs and how they can possess a physical robot, and this has created like this devastating war. And then she runs into a robot, and he's like a perverted Japanese tentacle monster, and he's telling all of these like naughty jokes, right? So that's a great setup because it's sort of setting you up like, ooh, dark, serious, edgy, and then fun stuff. That's great. I would say I think Jake is trying to balance like a realist Western style with some manga elements, and I feel he's a young artist. He's developing his style. I feel like he's got to kind of like pick a direction, like maybe push it more towards realism throughout, or maybe push it more towards abstraction throughout. But I definitely like his character design sensibility. I like that he's kind of pushing himself to show us more of the world and the architecture. That's something that sometimes, like, I'm kind of guilty of this. If I can avoid drawing a bunch of buildings, I'll avoid it. And in a lot of his drawings, there's a nice, almost like woodcut style to it, where there's some nice chunky blacks. I like that kind of vibe that it's got. Typo time. All right. I can't help myself. I've got to call shade upon the typos. Come on, guys. Hire an editor. I'll do it for $5. For $5, I'll be your editor. Let's see. His programming is designed to simulate the id, so additional layers of consciousness could be programmed into it. You see what I did there? While I was reading, I accidentally added the word be, but the word be is not in there. Could programmed. You missed the verb. And then hopping ahead a little bit, she meets her grandma and the matriarchs. A position I accepted when I transcended. No, I've read 3 comics with typos in a row. Okay. DM me your comic, and I will read it for $5 and help you catch the typos before you go to print. All right. I like the matriarchy, and that there's kind of like there's a contrast between the matriarchy's culture, which values results in science, and Beatdown Girl, who values the arts. And there's this tragic element to her where, as she's lost her arms, presumably she's lost her ability to make music. Piano was something important to her, and she's lost that. Maybe one more criticism I'd have is I actually like the use of halftone dots. That's a nice artistic element. I think a lot of artists don't realize is open to them, and Jake's using it. I just wish he would use halftone dots maybe a little bit more like a painter, where if you look at how manga artists do it, they'll have like a whole range of tones from dark gray to light gray to create this sort of atmosphere. And when he just has like the straight pattern, it kind of like jumps out at you a little bit. So this is like a nice thing to use to mix up into the world. But I think, add a little bit more depth or some additional layers to it to give it, make it not so obvious that that's just like a halftone dot pattern. I like the butler robot. I think it's got a comedic little jibe to it. And there's also this neat thing where robots can be threatened by the AI, so they kind of have to stay sheltered. That's interesting. So what gets accomplished? She has a fight. We kind of flesh out the culture. We meet some of her friends. They go on a quest to find the evil guys, and it ends off with a cliffhanger. It's a pretty good first issue. It packs in some character development for her. I'm interested to see what happens next, but it's definitely not a standalone story, which I'm okay with. As long as you like have a plan for where you're going and you get there. I'm okay if I'm okay if you have a cliffhanger at the end of the first issue, as long as some interesting stuff happens. So hopefully we get to see how this develops further. Uh, One of the things I love about comics is comics allows for kind of what would you call it? I call it underground styles or scroungy styles. Jake is working with a little elements of realism, little elements of kind of scroungy, scratchboard type of work, little elements of anime. I feel like he's still learning and growing and has to develop it into a polished style. But I do see I see strong indications that he's on his way to developing an interesting style. So I'm going to continue checking out Beatdown Girl. Kyrie by Matt Krotz. No typos, combo breaker. You can still, the campaign for book 1 is closed. The campaign for book 2 is ongoing. You can get the digital book 1 if you missed it. I really dig Kyrie, and one of the things I especially love about Kyrie, I've had Matt on to discuss his writing process. He's been a guest. He has the exact right amount of nerdiness to make it seem like, wow, that's cool, I didn't know that, without burdening me with all of his nerdiness all at once. So opening this up, let's see, get ready for, there goes the microphone entirely. We are just screwed in terms of sound for this episode. Hold on, I better fix this. Hang on, get up here. There we go. All right. See, this is what I'm talking about. High tech. All right. Get ready for a high adventure trek through 3rd century North Africa as a team of treasure hunters and outcasts uncover the secrets of Alexander the Great on Rome's distant frontier. It tells the story of a curious band of thieves, cutthroats, bookworms, and traitors as they attempt to outsmart the North African authorities while navigating their own dark and competing desires as outlaws of a dying Roman Empire. So he's picked the 3rd century, which, apart from reading one book on Rome, I don't know anything about. So it feels kind of magical and mysterious. And the Roman Empire's, great fodder for stories. There's his thank you, number 1 Marm, on the title page. So as we hop into it, there's this cool thing where an allegiance is being formed between Rome and Alexandria. There's this great epic speech, and we meet our characters who seem to be kind of two, thuggish thief brothers and an alluring Catwoman-style female thief. So what I like about this whole sequence is this contrasts the culture of Rome with the culture of the Persians, where the Romans kind of look down at these Persians and their female seductive slaves. That's great because that's showing that not all cultures are the same. Different countries have, negative views of one another. Hopping ahead, this is a quote from an extra biblical document. So it's not in the Bible, but it's written sort of in the style of scripture. I don't remember the title of it. Matt would probably know, but Matt just found it and he liked the emotion of it. And I love this because he found a little historical source that creates a palpable sense of sadness. The heavens are shut and I am given over to horror and despair. But as I discuss these matters in my heart, I see before me a great white chair of snow white wool. And there came an aged lady in glistening raiment, having a book in her hands. She sat down alone, and she saluted me good morrow. So Marcellus is this big, tall, dark-skinned guy, muscle-bound ape, but he's actually a scholar, and he reads ancient documents in Macedonian Greek. So what's great is something that fits with his character, knowing about kind of biblical texts and that kind of thing, is being quoted to establish he's smart. And it's establishing his emotion that he's alone and sad and miserable. So that's just great. I feel like artists should read history because history is full of all the kinds of archetypes and ideas you need for building your own world and your own story. Marcellus, over time, we learned that he's kind of a gentle giant and he just doesn't want to see people hurt. That's really neat. And then there's a contrast between him and the girl thief, who's kind of a little bit more practical and straightforward. There's some cool ancient historical landmarks that blow up, and it's a really exciting, fun, rousing event. Okay, I want to quote this because this is one of the most interesting scenes I've ever seen. I just love it. So the Roman senator says, I have a passion for languages. Hebrew has transfixed my attention for some years. Do you know it is believed that all written letters are actually the descendants of pictographs for early oral concepts, hieroglyphics, if you will. The first scribes were really artists. Take your Hebrew letter, Aleph, for instance, meaning strength. It was originally a drawing of an ox's head with horns. or the letter lamed, meaning leadership, which was first conceived of as the staff of a shepherd. But it took a true genius to see what would happen when one combined these mere pictures, to draw them together side by side. That man was no mere artist, you see. He was a magician. When one combines those letters, Aleph and Lamed, one invents a whole new concept, a written word, and a most extraordinary word, a word for every man and every age. And that word, my dear man, is power. Wow, that's great stuff. All right, so he's taking his nerdy, dang it. Okay, I'm still recording. He's taking his nerdy language knowledge and he's making this epic speech about power for the bad guy, right? And this is almost exactly what comics is. The bad guy is saying there are these two words, leadership and strength. And when you put them together, you get a new concept. And comics itself is the combination of the written word and the pictorial word to make a unified experience, right? This is so great. It's like abstract thinking. It's a little technical historical detail that adds a lot of reality to the world. It's just an epic evil bad guy speech. What a great scene. So 100% check out Kyrie, get the digital books of 1 and 2, get the physical edition. Oh, one more fun little story he told me. He told me that when his joke was his big brain move was he decided he wanted to make a comic. So he figured, what do people make comics on? Well, maybe 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper. That's what I'll draw on. Nope, comic book artists don't use 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper. So it's got this unusual format. Matt even joked that when you open it, because it's a shorter format, it actually kind of makes for a wider reading experience. And I actually had that vibe while I was reading it, not just from him saying it. So this is one of the fun things about indie comics is people are finding their own solutions. And Kyrie is an utterly unique, its format is unique, the art style is unique, the writing style is unique, the setting is unique. The fact that he chose to print in China is unique. He's also doing some interesting stuff with his campaigns where he will have some cool perks on Kickstarter and he'll have some cool perks on Indiegogo. Just get Matt Krotz on your radar. The only criticism I have is that he isn't really a 8-foot tall, dark-skinned Macedonian, muscle-bound scholar in real life. He's not quite 8 foot tall. Dang it. I hate it when the artist doesn't look like the profile picture, but this is a 100% gem. I'm so happy I got it. All right, 3 reviews, a 20-minute video. Dang it. Okay, my genius plan to do all 3 in 10 minutes didn't work. But you know what? I'm no more Marmaduke fan. I love you guys. Catch you later.